Hey gang, Mike here again. This time I'm going to show you guys how to make this little beauty. I don't know what it is exactly. Radial design. Got all kinds of crazy colors happening. Pretty crazy. Kids love it. Their brains explode. We started out with something real simple. I want to zoom over a little bit and show you guys this. I want to see this layer by itself. That's what our original thing was. If I just put my cursor over that background eyeball, hold down the Alt key or the Option key and click, what it does is it shuts off all the other layers, and that's what we started with. So that design became that design. And you can do lots of crazy things with this, shrink it, make patterns, etc. But let me show you how we did it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of all the other layers. So I'm on the top layer there. And you know one of the keyboard shortcuts to get rid of a whole bunch of things in a row, or select a whole bunch of things in a row, is to hold the Shift key down and click. And if you clicked on one and Shift clicked the other one, you would end up grabbing everything. And then we're just going to say hit delete here and get rid of everything. Or you can hit the little trash bucket down the bottom and say delete the selected layers. Yes, please. All right, so here we go, step by step. First thing we did is copy the background layer, Command J. Next thing we're going to do is free transform, which is Command T. And you can get that up here, edit, free transform. But I like to have the kids do the keyboard shortcuts all the time just because it gets them familiar with working around the keyboard. To flip this, which I'd like to do, I'm going to right click or control click here on my MacBook Pro and choose flip horizontal. And what it's going to do is flip that picture completely horizontal. To get out of this little free transform box, because now it's a solid white, I've either got to escape, which would send me back to what I just did, or hit enter. So I'll hit enter or return, and you'll notice over on our layers, I've got two different layers, one going one way, one going the other. So here what we're going to do is, I'm going to now change the opacity of this layer. So I love to show the kids how to do the opacity slider. It's so fantastic on every layer. You can do all kinds of fun stuff with fills and opacities and blends, and we're going to show you a couple of those right now. So the opacity slider, if you click the little down arrow next to anything that's got a little down arrow, means that it's got a little slider that controls how much this thing can have here. So if I had more than 50%, what I would see is more of the top layer than the bottom layer. If I had less than 50%, I would see more of the bottom layer than the top layer. So what I'm going to have the kids do is put this right at 50%. So I'm going to have this 49, 50, there we go. Another way to do that would have been to just click right in there and type in 50. Or if you want to show them this little guy, that little hand with the finger, and that's called the scrubby slider. If you click and hold the mouse down, you can scrub one way or the other and very quickly change how much of any slider in Photoshop changes. So while it's still highlighted, I'm going to put it back on 50, and there we go. Now we've got, now we've got a completely symmetrical design. Stop, teach symmetry. There it is. That's what we're talking about. That's what symmetry is. Put a line right down the middle. It's the exact same thing as if it was produced by a mirror on one side or the other. I want to make a composite of this now. I don't want to lose this, but I don't want to get rid of these guys either. I don't want to squish them down to nothing. Well, if I went up to the word layer on the top, I could see that I've got some choices down the bottom here. One of them says merge down. That would merge the top layer in any stack that I'm in to the layer right below it. Merge visible means that it's going to put all the layers together as one new layer. Well, I'd like to do that, but also keep all the other layers. To do that, you create something called a stamped visible layer or a composite layer. Add the Option key to this. Option, click. And when you do that, what you get is a composite layer. It's a layer composed of all the other layers together on top. So you can see what the effect is and keep it and work with it and not lose these other guys. In a PC, you can't go ahead and click on the Alt key while you're doing it. It'll throw you out of that file. So you just have to know that keyboard shortcut. Shift, Alt, Control E would be on a PC. All right, so what I'm going to do is copy that layer again. While we teach the kids, Command J here or Control J on a PC, copy the layer. Control T was free transform. Right click inside there. This time, flip vertical. Now we've got this copy to say OK, enter or return. This time I could also change the opacity. There it is, drag it down to 50%, but it's looking a little tiny bit muddy. So I'm going to leave it all the way up and now introduce this next concept, which is blend modes. The blend modes are a list of ways to blend one layer to the other. These guys darken, these guys lighten, these guys are about contrast, these are about crazy stuff, this is all about color. Let's start with lightening. So I'm going to hit screen here. What screen does is it keeps the whites, gets rid of the blacks, and builds up this guy as a very bright, colorful concept. I love it. Looks good, but let's make a composite. So I got Shift, Option, Command, E. Oops, what did I do wrong? I'm on the, I still got the opacity slider lit up. And if I have that, it means that it doesn't want to play nice there. So if you click sometimes and you go, what happened? It doesn't work. Check to make sure something's lit up, because if it's lit up, that means you're trying to make a choice there. All right, so I think we should be good. I'm going to roll this guy back. This time I'm going to make that composite. Shift, Option, Command, E. There's the composite. I'm going to copy it, Command, J. This time I'm going to change the blend mode, not from screen, but say something like multiply, which is going to make it darker. Ooh, that's interesting. Kind of like that. So here's this multiply design. That could be very cool. Let's make a composite now. Shift, Option, Command, E. Now I've got that composite of the multiply. Let's copy it, Command, J. Let's free transform it, Command, T. Let's right-click inside. And choose this time, rotate. Doesn't make any difference, right or left. All right, so now what we've got is you can kind of see we got this nice little square here, and you can have the kids divide this up and do some little square stuff. Let's say okay. I don't know, it's kind of cutting off the lines on the top and the bottom. Let's put free transform back on, Command T. This time, teach them this little concept. I want to stretch this out. Well, if I click and drag, it stretches it out in all kinds of different ways. I don't want to do that. Now, I haven't let go yet. I'm going to add the Shift key. If I add the Shift key, it grabs it from one corner. If I add the Option key, it'll pull it out from the center. That's a good one. So try that with the Option key. All right, let go of the mouse first. Let's try it again. Shift, Option, click, and drag out. There we go. Now I'm going to let go of the mouse, let go of the keys, and hit Enter. I'm going to back this out a little bit so you can see it. Command minus. But I can't see the other stuff underneath. So this time I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to blend it using one of those crazy ones. Let's try difference. Ooh, that's kind of cool. I don't even think that's the same thing we started with, but what the heck. So here's this difference composite, kind of like that. We could also then go ahead and make a composite of that one. Shift, Option, Command, E. There we go. Let's copy that, Command J. You could go crazy all day long. They could just keep going nuts. And once they've got this down and they've started to change the brainwave structure, they're in a groove. They're at alpha beta. They're working great. All of a sudden, they've got designs. They've got ideas. It's like, how can I move this? How can I change this? All right. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to change the color now. So we're going to go up to our adjustment layers and take this guy, hue saturation. And then back this out a little bit. And here you can talk about the three components of color: hue, saturation, lightness. I'm going to move these sliders around. Okay, the hue slider moves it around, changes all the colors. You could say, you know what, find something that's a little complementary. I like that kind of blue-orange thing. That's working. Or I'm going to click and drag it around and do something that's a little bit more, ooh, that's kind of nice, orange-blue instead, or red-orange, blue-green. Kind of like that. It doesn't really make too much difference which way you go. As they go, though, have them save. File, save as. I always like save as better than save because you can always rewrite the name of the file. Just going to call this one demo, and let's call it demo 2. And I'm going to put this on my desktop because I think I already did a demo on the desktop one time. There we go. And instead of saving it as a Photoshop document, this time save it as a JPEG. A JPEG is a lossy file. It compresses the file. It saves it. Hit save. And now you get the options for how big you want the JPEG. If you have storage problems like I have storage problems, you want to make sure you put preview on and then move the slider so that you don't have something huge here. If I drag this all the way to the right, I got a file that's pretty big. 7.2 megabytes is not super huge, but after a while, a whole bunch of those takes up a bunch of space. So I would figure if you go in this little list here, just go to high. You should be good. That's about 1.3 megabytes. Going to say OK, and there we go. We have it saved. Lastly, make sure you save at least one version of these guys as a Photoshop document. So I would go to Save As, and I would make sure that that format said Photoshop and that layers was checked on, and whatever profile I was working with, that's fine. So I'm not going to hit it now because it would take too long to save, but I would just say that's what the next thing is to do. All right, so there's a whole bunch of different techniques and things to get these really interesting designs going. You could then go ahead and use the crop tool. You could use all kinds of ways to make patterns, etc. But there you go.